Hello, Trailblazer fans, Blazers Edge readers. Welcome to another edition of the Blazers Edge Videocast. I'm Sam Tung, along with Dave Deckard. We have an email question for you today about Coach Terry Stotts, a topic that, quite honestly, I didn't think we were going to talk about at all this year, Dave, but something that's come up recently, so we're going to chat about Terry Stotts. But first, a reminder, the emails go to blazersub@gmail.com. Again, blazersub@gmail.com. And actually, before, Dave, we address this question, I realized in our last video, I didn't ask you, I know you've written about it, but wanted to hear from your voice how Blazers Edge Night went recently. I know it looked like it was a pretty great time, but wanted to get your thoughts on how the night went and you know, how the kids enjoyed it.
Well, it's pretty incredible, really. You show up to the Moda Center, and you know something's different because there are huddles of kids outside arriving, and in groups of like 20 or 30 or even 5 or 6. But the ratio of kids to adults makes it clear this isn't a biological family. This is a group of classmates or what have you. And they're excited, and they've got their backpacks on, and they've got signs, and they're chatting and doing all this stuff. And the energy level is really high. And then if you have the chance to be standing in the building itself when they first walk in to the actual arena, that is an amazing thing to see, because these kids they're confident, they're almost got a shield up, got a way of dealing with the world where they're going to take it in stride, they're going to be cool, they're going to handle whatever because they have to, But you walk inside, and the scope of the interior of the Moda Center just kind of hits you. I mean, there are 20,000 seats here, and the floor's down there, and the actual Blazers logo is on it, and real players are warming up on it. And the big screen is huge, and it's got pictures of the NBA and everything on the court and what have you. And the kids, it's just like nothing if you have not experienced it. We take it for granted. It's an amazing experience for them, and all of a sudden, all of that layer of whatever was there kind of washes away. Jaws hit the floor, eyes go wide open, and they can't believe it. And there's like this stunned moment of silence for many of them, and then it just all flows out. That excitement that was boiling and as they were waiting in line just pours out all over the place. And wow, we can't believe it, and loud cheering. And boy, if the camera hits their section to show them dancing or whatever, just the whole section is on their feet and just being unabashedly joyful. And so it's a great experience, particularly since a lot of these kids don't get the chance to have that moment in their daily lives. It's just a really neat thing. So, and 1,200 of them this year, my gosh. We were sitting kind of incognito, I think, in the middle of some of the sections, and like there was waves of people to our left and waves of people to our right. And some of the kids sitting next to us looked around and said, I cannot believe how many of our people are here. So it was just a great experience, and happy to be a part of it, grateful to all the readers who helped us to make that happen, and it's just really a worthwhile experience, I think, for all of us, me included.
Well, it looked amazing, and some of the pictures that you guys were posting on social media looked pretty fantastic. And I remember my first Trailblazer game too, so it's just one of those moments where it's one of those things that you're a fan, but once you go to a game, it's like it's unlike any other.
Absolutely. And hey, what's the one game now? As we speak, we're recording this a little earlier, so the Blazers have played a couple games. By the time you've seen this, there will be a couple games in between when we're recording it. But note, I don't know how we lucked out, but what was the one game in the last 2 weeks as we speak where the Blazers played with energy, focus, verve, had a great time, and showed the audience something? It was that Washington game. It was Blazers Edge Night. So we're thankful for that. If they were going to have one good game in 2 weeks, that was the right one to have.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been good to take him to Charlotte. That probably wouldn't have been
Milwaukee. Gonna have nightmares about that.
Yeah. Well, anyways, want to get to the emailer question today, Dave, and the question is: Coach Stotts has so far escaped much blame for the Blazers' slide into mediocrity since January. Sure, those first 2 months were a work of beauty, but the last three are a CrossFit workout of forehead slaps and jumping up and down in frustration at our defensive ineptitude. How much of our struggles is on Stotts? Probably the most eloquent email we've ever gotten, Dave. I'm going to be honest. That was awesome. But wanted your thoughts on, the team really has struggled as of late, really over the last couple of weeks. So, how much of the blame can you put on Coach?
Okay, let's ask this question then. You have two parts of the season, right? The glorious part and the difficult part. Which one of those was more bound to happen? And what I mean by that is, as you look forward across the Blazers season, what was the baseline expectation? Was it that they were going to be, 41-12 or whatever ungodly record they had? Or was it that they were going to be more or less a 500 team? If you asked most people, realistically, they were going to be a 500 team. The fact that they got out to an amazing start, albeit against weaker competition, should not be dimmed by them kind of coming back to expectations in the latter part of the season. Yes, they've played worse. Yes, things have gone wrong. Yes, the continuity isn't there, and neither is LaMarcus Aldridge there, by the way. But the unexpected part of the season was the first part and not the second. Therefore, to my mind, you give Stotts some credit for that first part. Obviously, it was the players and whatever, but this team was out there and clicking and had a great system when nobody else did. When everybody else was finding their way, this team was ready to go, and this team performed and did very well. The rest of the league caught up to them. The road got tougher. The talent on the other teams showed more. The Blazers aren't able to do as much as they were able to do earlier. But I'm not sure that's because they've been coached down to this performance level as much as they were coached up to the earlier performance level.
Yeah, I think, that when the team plays poorly, there's sort of some blame to go around, and I'm not even saying that he deserves, 100% of it or 1% of it, but I do think that everyone contributes to this. It's not one guy that causes this to happen. But I do agree that the expectations were so inflated at the beginning of the year. However, I'm curious what you had to say to fans that I think that there is a legitimate concern, especially we're in the single digits away from the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So the fact that the team is playing an offensive style of ball that really has no has no relationship to what they were playing at the beginning of the year. It doesn't even look like they're playing the same. And I do think that there's a lot of people that are concerned that this team has, I don't know if they've gotten complacent or if teams are figuring them out or what the issue is. But regardless, even if teams are figuring them out, doesn't that require then you put in a new wrinkle into the offense that they haven't figured out yet? I'm just curious what you have to say to people that say,
Sure.
the team just hasn't, this isn't the Trailblazers that we saw even 2 months ago.
Right. Well, and there's a whole bundle of stuff in there. I think there is a psychological difference. A coach can make a difference in that area, so I don't want to absolve Coach Stotts from blame. He probably takes as much as anybody. However, to my mind, and maybe I don't know for sure now, but that shift started coming out almost the exact time that everybody started focusing on Damian Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge and whether they are going to be all-stars. And all of a sudden, despite the great start, the narrative shifted with this team as to whether, forget whether they're going to be the best in the league or whether they're performing well or whatever. Are they going to get respect? Are they going to get 2 All-Stars? And they did get 2 All-Stars. But right in the lead up to that, you started seeing more isolation ball. You started seeing less confidence out of the other players. People started missing shots that they were going to make. And then the 2 stars started taking over the game more and more. And the Blazers actually got by winning some of those games where the stars took over, and they got used to winning in that way. Now all of a sudden, One star is gone due to injury. The other one, as hard as he tries, isn't quite up to the task of carrying his team all the way now. And you're playing like you played in February, not like you played in December, right? So the magic is gone when the stars are gone. So I think there is some truth to that. However, I don't think that's necessarily all on Stotts. It feels like with the entire team, either some other agenda got in the way or some lack of confidence kind of permeated everybody, and that's contributed. The thing I will say, remember this. When a team does not get a rebound and does not get back in transition and lets the other team score a layup, no coach in the world is coaching that. Do you understand? It's like the things that make you pull out your hair and go, oh my gosh, why did that guy just stop on the screen and not defend it? Or why did that guy not grab the rebound or even lift his arms? Nobody is coaching the players to do that. No matter what the game plan is, the players have to execute it with energy and with skill. Otherwise, it's not going to matter.
I know at the beginning of the year, really, actually, I don't even think that's fair. It was more in the middle of the year. I remember you had written during this streak that the team jumped out to, that you had basically said, even if the wheels fell off for the rest of the year, Coach Stotts should be the coach of the year, almost regardless of whatever else is happening. But to that point, I don't want to say the wheels have fallen off, but they're a little squeakier than they were just a couple months ago. So I wanted your thoughts on, you talk a little bit about, it's in large part due to player execution and the coach can only do so much. But I mean, is this a guy that still should be in that coach of the year conversation? It might be a crazy question, but I do think that it's one that some people are wondering during this recent slide.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, look, where's Phoenix right now? I mean, they're out of the playoff picture. Now, granted, Hornacek's done a great job, but the Blazers have done better. And, people were forecasting a little better things for Portland than they were for Phoenix, but people were, I think, pretty optimistic about what Portland was going to do, which seemed to be borne out in the first part of the season, but now you're starting to see what the potential on the other side is, yes? But the temptation is to think, well, I was right about my optimism, and see, they were 40 and whatever, and now something's happened to change the truth toward the negative, right? And it's got to be Coach Stotts. Well, really, something happened to change the truth toward the positive, and that was your coach of the year, Terry Stotts, working magic with the team. That, and by the way, you talked about changing the game plan, right? Into what? What other skills does Nicola Batum have that he is not showing? What other ways of scoring does Wesley Matthews have in his back pocket that he's been successful with? What else can Robin Lopez do? And by the way, is it a complete accident? This is what I love about coaching. You look at Robin Lopez. He's had a career year. He's a brilliant player. He was a great acquisition. We love him. Why? Because the Blazers are playing a style which allows him to have the best season of his career, which other teams were either not willing or not able to play. Guess whose fault that style is that makes Robin Lopez maybe this team's MVP? It's Terry Stotts. And that's not taking credit away from Lopez. He is executing great and putting the energy in. But Stotts gives him that playground in which to play. And if the system were designed differently, as I think we've seen when the Blazers get taken out of their system, Lopez is not nearly as effective. Ditto with Nicola Batum, ditto with Wesley Matthews and his three-point shooting. Damian Lillard, even though he slumped, Stotts has allowed him quite a bit of leeway without yanking him. Obviously, who do you yank him for? But, not a lot of coaches would have patience with those 28-foot three-pointers. Stotts takes it in stride. He's giving these guys rope and letting them play, and he's designed a system that they can play in. That deserves some credit.
Is he your coach of the year right now?
Yes, absolutely. And the only thing that would change that for me is if the Blazers drop all the way out of the playoffs, especially if Phoenix goes above them. Or maybe if they end up on a level with Phoenix exactly, I might reconsider that. Obviously, that would mean the bottom fell all the way out. So, but yes, he is still absolutely my coach of the year. One other thing I should say, a point you brought up, which is interesting. I told you there was a bundle in what you said. This is what I love about the analysis, okay? End of games. Blazers call timeout, right? Because it's close. And they run a play that's not very well executed. And they end up with a bad shot. And people say, why the hell did Coach Stotts call that play? That was really, really stupid. Why did he design the play to do that? Well, he didn't design the play to do that.
Yeah.
Every play has like 4 or 5 options that you are supposed to read the defense and decide which one, especially with the Blazers. I don't know if you've noticed, but Coach Stotts does not sit there and call a ton of plays from the sideline like Nate McMillan did. Okay? He lets these guys play, and he designs options for them, and they execute them. So if he calls a timeout, he gets the blame for it. Right? If the play goes wrong. In the last few games that have been close, he has opted not to call the timeout. The Blazers have just run the play, right? Now it doesn't work, and what do people say? Why didn't he call a timeout? Why didn't he call a play? That was stupid just to let him go. He cannot win unless the ball goes in the bucket, of course. But if the ball goes in the bucket, guess who gets the credit? The guy who shot it. Okay? So coaches do not get the credit. Coaches get all of the blame. This is what we're seeing in part with Coach Stotts in this recent slump. Hey, he's part of it, just like the whole team is. Maybe he lost the team a little bit in that all-star fracas and then, hasn't gotten it back or what have you. But this is certainly not all on him. You should give him credit for a job well done this season.
It's going to be tough, Dave, to beat Tom Thibodeau for Coach of the Year, though. That is a tough one. I know that's a little off topic, but
Sure.
What he has done with, you want to talk about guys that have been injured or traded or the whole. Chicago has been run through the gambit, and yet right now I believe they would host a first-round playoff series. So, I think point well taken, but it is interesting how there are a number of guys that are really turning something out of nothing. It's pretty impressive when you think of Hornacek and Stotts and Thibodeau and all these guys. These are supposed to be teams that have no business being in the playoffs, and 2 of the 3 almost certainly will make it, and a third might even make it by the end of the year.
Sure. I like Thibodeau a lot. I think obviously he's next in line for being elevated to that pantheon of coaches that everybody just considers, really good. Okay. However, Chicago's had more continuity. I know Jalen Rose, but really the rest of that core they've played with a little bit.
Joakim Noah. I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Not Jalen Rose.
No, Jalen Rose been gone.
I see.
That's their lack of continuity. I understand that he's been in and out. But Chicago has some veterans.
You mean Derrick Rose? Derrick Rose. Here we go.
That's right. Let's try again. Yeah, well, we were half right. We'll split that one. Jalen. I always do that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay. I always think Rose, and then that shows my age, right? Derrick Rose has been in and out. Okay. Anyway, back to my point. They have more veterans and more continuity. The Blazers just, in some ways, kind of started over with this bench with Robin Lopez. Yes, they had 4 players returning, but those were players without a huge track record. Lillard is only his 2nd year. The entire bench is young. I like Chicago's lineup more than I like Portland's, balanced equally. Also, they play in the Eastern Conference, and that this year has to be a little bit of an asterisk. If the Blazers were in the Eastern Conference, how many wins would they have? So I understand the point, and I don't disagree that Thibodeau is a candidate, maybe even equal to Stotts. But for me, I still have a spot in my heart for Terry.
Well, send in that heart ballot there, Dave. I think they'll appreciate that.
Jalen Rose for MVP. I love it.
Team's been different ever since Jalen Rose was out.
Yeah, exactly. That's been a while. Hey, he's on the radio now, so maybe he'll hear this. And
yeah, I doubt it. But anyways, again, thanks to the emailer today, blazersub@gmail.com. We'll be back in a couple of days with another email question for you on the Videocast. So that's going to do it for us today. For Dave Deckard, I'm Sam Tung. Thanks again so much for joining us here on the Videocast. We'll talk to you all in a couple days.